عليك صلاة الله ثم سلامه على يا رسول الله أني مغرم. صببت دموعا يشهد الحزن أنها أتت من فؤاد بالغرام متيام، وليس له من بعد التتيم مشرح سوى أن يرى محبوبه ويسلم.
Prominent Sudanese personalities. At the outset of this encounter with one of the most prominent Sudanese figures, it is my pleasure to welcome you, the audience, to this new episode, which comes as part of our series of documentaries on pioneering Sudanese personalities who have shone across the skies of creativity and great achievement. Tonight, we stand before an exceptional figure, one whose name is deeply carved into the cultural and scholarly memory of the country, and whose contributions defy the limits of description. His work spans multiple fields, distinguished by intellectual depth, linguistic purity, and a vast knowledge. Our guest today is Professor Abdallah Atyyib, a towering figure in Sudanese thought and a cornerstone in its literary and intellectual renaissance. We meet him as a scholar, radiating the reverence of knowledge and precision of research. As a literary figure, under whom the modern Sudanese school of language and letters flourished. And as a masterful poet whose elegant rhythm and vivid imagery resonated widely. We meet him as an exegete of the Holy Quran, immersed in the science of language and its subtleties, deeply anchored in the heritage of the Arabs and the secrets of their eloquence, restoring to Arabic its classic brilliance and standing as a model of scholarly rigor and encyclopedic intellect. In this episode, we do not speak merely of a person, but of an entire school of thought, of a cultural legacy that had echoed across generations, and of an imprint on Sudanese and Arab intellectual history that cannot be erased. We will sail through the stages of his life, explore his achievements in the fields of literature, research, and scholarship, and discover the man who masterfully blended authenticity and innovation, the fragrance of the past with the pulse of the present. He was truly a radiant beacon that guides researchers and inspires creators.
محمد لخد منير أسهل ومشمام، سلام على طرف الرسول محمد لطرف كحيل أدعج ومعلم.
So, the audience, it is my great pleasure welcoming you to this new episode, which in fact is a unique and exceptional one, in which we try to enter into the world of Professor Abdallah Atyyib. So, Abdallah Atyyib, 1921-2003, will be the focus of our encounter today, and in more than 3 coming episodes, trying to journey through his life, focusing on his achievements and the contributions that he have been played in Sudan and in the Arab world as a scholar, as a poet, and as exegete of the Holy Quran. However, in our first encounter with him, just here, the audience, I would like to introduce his biography, starting with his family lineage, going to his education, coming across through his career and professional life, and then going to his contributions in terms of his authoring books, and then going to have his impact as a scholar, as a writer, a poet, and as exegete to the Holy Quran.
سلام على كف الحبيب محمد لكف رحيم كم يجود ويكرم به.
So in our first encounter with him, as I told just here, I would like to share. I would like sharing his biography, and in this regard, I would like to start by saying Professor Abdallah Atyyib was a Sudanese linguist and a poet. He graduated in London and was the third Sudanese to obtain a PhD. He wrote extensively on literature and language, hosted a program in Quranic interpretation and exegesis, and held administrative position in several Arab cultural institutions. He also served as a visiting professor at a number of Arab, African, and British universities. The Egyptian literary figure Taha Hussein praised him highly, hosted him and his wife in his home, wrote a foreword to his book المرشد, and introduced him to the Egyptian cultural elite, saying, "This young Sudanese has written what none of you could." So, dear audience, following this short introduction, I would like going directly to the speech on his birth and early life and his family lineage. His full name is Abdallah ibn الطيب ibn Abdallah ibn الطيب ibn Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Muhammad al-Majzhub, who was born on June 2nd, 1921 in the village of Timirab near the city of Damar in northern Sudan. He was raised in a prominent religious household, the household of Al-Majazib, known for their Shazali Sufi order affiliation and for scholarship, righteousness, and literature. The city of Damar was even known as the city of the Majazib. Religion deeply shaped his upbringing. So, just the audience, this is the starting point in which we have introduced that our prominent Sudanese figure, Professor Abdallah Atyyib, was born in the household of Al-Majazib, a clan known for their righteousness, their scholarship, and literature. And for this, his upbringing was so unique. And in this concern, we find him always proud of having been one of Al-Majazib of Damar, a center of traditional learning acknowledged by Burckhardt in his travels in Nubia in 1822. About his village in which he was born, at Timirab is not just a farming village. The village and its vicinity of a Damar suburb are now known to be cradles of linguistic genius of sorts, poets, researchers, and religious scholars. It could be enough to say that the German traveler Burckhardt had described Damar of the 18th century as almost a city of judging, almost a city. Judging by its cleanliness and orderliness. He also, and here Burckhardt, the Germanic traveler, described its Khalwa Quranic school as almost a university when he saw the level of its curricula and its strict academic rules.
يا عازلي في حب أحمد فاقصرا ودع الملامة غنني بغناه.
His father, Atayyib, was a cultured poet, a memorizer of the Holy Quran, and a teacher in the city of Kassala, well-versed in tajweed and recitation according to Shatibiya. So, the writers of Professor Abdallah Atyyib biography inform that his father has received his tertiary education at Gordon College, and he was a cultured poet, a memorizer to the Holy Quran. Furthermore, he is a teacher, and he had been taught in many of the Sudanese cities. And here, just I have pointed out to his teaching time in the city of Kassala. And moreover, on his biography, Professor Abdallah Atyyib recalls that his father loved him dearly and cared greatly for his education. Before his father's death, he told him that he would one day travel to Europe. His mother, Aisha Jalal ad-Din, had a moderate education. While his grandmother was a woman of striking eloquence. غيث الورى غوثاه بالغوث يا غيث الورى غوثاه يرجو الخلاص بجاه وجهك عجلا بالغوث يا غيث الورى غوثاه طاهر المجذوب وعبدك فرضه واقبل إغاثته واحم حماه. His earliest education. As a custom of the Sudanese families and clans in the past time, they provided their children with the religious education, mainly the Holy Quran. Professor Abdallah Atyyib received his earliest schooling in Khalwa, the traditional Quranic school where children are taught the elements of the Arabic letters, following their journey with the memorization of the Holy Quran. And in this concern, it has been stated that his father was his first teacher. Moreover, his biography writers stated that his father died when he was still a child, leaving him in need of educational support. Admission to free schools required excellence in mathematics, that is in the past time. So he was always grateful to mathematics for enabling him to continue his education. So in this concern, I would like to inform that Professor Abdallah Atyyib started his earliest education in Khalwa, by the way. And that form of education is just the first step in which the child started his journey with education. So Professor Abdallah Atyyib other custom, as I told, with the children of the Sudanese families in the past time. He has been enrolled in the Khalwa, and then he went on and joined the formal education. And in this concern, one of the conditions in the past time to be admitted to free schools required excellence in mathematics. So Professor Abdallah Atyyib was grateful to mathematics, for he was in the end being enabled to continue his education through his excellence in mathematics.
تحرك قلبي نسمة الحيلاتات بوادي عتيق والدموع تهتف فيا طالما كنا هناك بأنعمين ووصل وأنس والزمان مصرف.
Following the passing away of his father, then his mother followed him. And for this, he became responsible for raising his sisters and did not marry until after they were all married. One of his sisters died young in 1947. After losing both parents, his uncle insisted that he leave school and work in the market to support himself and his family. His grandmother strongly refused, believing Abdullah was intelligent and destined for an academic future. His academic formation. Professor Abdallah Atyyib began his learning beside one of the village schools, learning the alphabet at an early age, and was able to read even before he fully mastered writing. He later joined formal schools in several Sudanese cities, including Kassala, Berber, and his hometown, Damar. He read from his father's library, including Al-Bayan wa-Tibyan by Jahis. In addition to this book, he read so numerous and many books. And for this, such early readings shaped his literary awareness. So this is another point that indicated that Professor Abdallah Atyyib has been born in educated scholarly family, as we have stated earlier. And we also said that his father was one day was a student at Gordon College. And because of this, Professor Abdallah Atyyib have been provided with reading books that had been part of his father's library, putting in consideration that his relationship, his journey with reading has started earlier, and he started, as we told, his earliest education in Khalwa, followed with the formal education. All of this have been supported and backed up with the family scholarly heritage. After finishing intermediate school in Berber, he waited with his peers for admission results to Gordon Memorial College, University of Khartoum. He was accepted on a full scholarship and graduated in 1942. So his biography furthermore informed that he joined College of Arts, University of Khartoum, and he had graduated in the year 1942. Furthermore, he pursued his tertiary education, and that is his postgraduate studies, for he earned a PhD from the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London, and that is in the year 1950. becoming the third Sudanese to receive a doctorate after مكشبي كان الشيخ الريح العيدروس.
عليه يحيلون الشفاعة يوقفون وكلهم نفسي يقولون للورى وهو أمتي إنسا وجلا ويهدف إلي تعالوا أهل حشر جميعكم فإن لواء الحمد عندي يرفرف.
Journey to London and his marriage. In 1945, the colonial Sudanese government granted Abdallah Atyyib a scholarship to the United Kingdom to train as a teacher. The trip was considered a prestigious reward for promising Sudanese schools. After completing his studies, he preferred not to remain long in London and convinced the administration to grant Sudanese students a formal academic qualification rather than repeating training they had already received at Bakht al-Rida. After receiving his doctorate, his supervisor suggested him to stay and lecture in London, and he agreed. So this is just another point that Professor Abdallah Atyyib, following his finishing to his PhD study in London, then his supervisor asked him to stay in London to lecture, and he had agreed to the job and to the offer, and he spent time there lecturing in London College. So during his presence in London, he married his future wife, Griselda, that in 1948. She traveled with him to Sudan in 1950, staying 3 months. They later returned to London when he began lecturing there, then moved back to Sudan, where he took up a position by the way, in Bakht al-Rida. That is his journey following his return from London back to Sudan, went to Bakht al-Rida and worked there. So following his work in Bakht al-Rida, he and his wife settled. Eventually, they settled in Sudan. Griselda said that life in London after the war was difficult. That is after the Second World War. After writing his 4-volume work, Al-Murshid, Griselda advised him to present it to the greatest Arab author of the time, Taha Hussein, leading to their visit to him in Zamalek, where he wrote the book's preface. Professor Abdallah Attyib's scholarly approach was broad and inclusive, addressing all aspects of the Arabic language. He possessed great skill in tracing modern dialects back to classical Arabic. His writing explored poetry, prose, texts, and prophetic madih.
إذا انضم هذا للنحول تقاسما بأنك في حب الرسول لبارع فيهنيك هذا عش بهذا معذبا حليف غرام ما له من يضارع ومذهب أهل الحب فيه تبادل فتعذبه عذب وحلو ونافع.
And professional life. Professor Abdallah Atyyib had a remarkable academic career of more than half a century, during which he emerged as one of the most prominent scholars of Arabic literature and language in the 20th century across the Arab world. Professor Abdallah Atyyib was also a prominent academician and administrator. He was Dean of the College of Arts at Khartoum University in 1961 and subsequently Vice Chancellor of Khartoum and Juba Universities in Sudan in 1965. After his retirement, he was appointed Professor Emeritus at Khartoum University in 1977. He also served as the President of the Arab Language Academy in Khartoum in 1990 and a member of the Arabic Language Academy in Cairo, and was a professor, a visiting professor, or an invited lecturer at several African and Arab universities and other land institutions. Professor Abdallah Attyib's contributions were recognized by a host of prizes, medals, and honorary doctorates. The journey of education had also taken him and his wife Griselda to Morocco, where he was invited by its monarch, King Al-Hassan II, to lecture in its universities and to lecture him and his court on weekly basis. Then he traveled to Nigeria, where he founded the Arabic College of Cairo in the city of Kano, and his biography writers inform that during this journey and his work in Nigeria, his wife Griselda has converted to Islam, and that is in 1977.
وفي عالم الأرواح أنت إمامنا تقدمتنا طرا ونجمك طالع فأرواحنا من راح روحك أشربت وفي عالم الأجساد تمت منافع.
His authoring books. Professor Abdallah Atyyib is a man of great achievements. In terms of his authoring books, he authored numerous books in addition to so abundant of poetry collections. Moreover, his contribution not only confined to authoring books, but his participation and contribution on other ways of scientific contribution, and to just here to mention his living contribution that focus on exegesis of the Holy Quran, and so other religious and literary programs that he used frequently to present in Sudan TV and radio of Omdurman. Moreover, he is a man of greater linguistic studies as well as of a variety of short story collections. His wife stated that he wrote 46 works, all in his own handwriting. Just to name part of his significant and important works, I would like sharing part of his writing. And as we have said, that his wife Griselda stated that he had 46 works. To name a few: المرشد إلى فهم أشعار العرب وصناعتها, that is published in 1955. الأحاج السودانية from 1947 to 1993 من نافذة القطار. It is a biography, story life, by the way. من نافذة القطار, that is from 1964 to 1993. Another authoring that is tackled the area of biographies من حقيبة الذكريات, that is 1989, and so other poetic collections ضوء النيل أقاني الأصيل that is 1976 مع بالطيب 1968 كلمات من فاس 1986 and then we have his contribution in the way of exegesis that is starting from جزء عامة that is his contribution in this regard or in this area has been started in 1970 to 1986. Another authoring that is تاريخ النثر الحديث في السودان published in 1959 and he furthermore he has his own writing on the genre of drama and plays, and in this regard, just to name a few, he has his play Al-Gharam Al-Maknoon. It is a poetic play. Moreover, he has Qiyam As-Sa'a, that is moreover a poetic play. In addition to that, he has maqalat, essays and articles in Sudan Records, and has been written in English entitled عادات السودان المتغيرة. And moreover, he has other contribution, as I told, that is represented in the program that he has presented in Sudan TV as well as Sudanese radio of Umdurman. Meanwhile, our poet and scholar, Professor Abdallah Atyyib, he has his own contribution in the area and in the journal of poetic madih, prophetic madih, and in this regard we will encounter him in a separate episode that handled, and I will try to share his contribution with his masterpiece, his celebrated work entitled برق المدد بعدد وبلا عدد. So inshallah it will be one of our focus in our coming episodes.
جمال محيدر فغير الذي سواه حاشاه يعبر فمن شامه قطعا إليه يكبر إذ كبر من شطر يوسف ناظر فكيف الذي كل المحاسن قد حوى اللهم صل وسلم على حبيب الله فكيف الذي كل المحاسن قد حوى اللهم صل وسلم على حبيب الله محياك كالبدر.
Meanwhile, the versatility of Atayyib's work is best exemplified by his groundbreaking book, A Guide to Understanding Arabic Poetry, المرشد إلى فهم أشعار العرب, and numerous Arabic texts written over a 35-year period. The first 3 volumes are regarded as the most thorough analysis known of the composition, rhythm, unity, and other features of Arabic poetry since the pre-Islamic eras. The 4th volume, a landmark text of over 1,500 pages, including exhaustive details of the role of both ancient and modern Arabic literary critics, the development of the Arabic poem through the centuries, and its impact on European poets from Dante to Andrew Marvell, Blake, and the Romantic poets. Professor Abdallah Atyyib presented his ideas with a contagious joy and had the power to communicate with people from all walks of life. For 35 years, the people of Sudan were inspired by his exegesis of the Quran into colloquial Arabic on the radio. A great deal of his energy was devoted to enhancing the intellectual life of the Arab world and Africa. For the common man, Professor Abdallah Atyyib is that learned sheikh who used to present a simple studies of the Holy Quran at 7:30 p.m. every day, a practice the national radio still keeps regularly to date. All the series of the same program were followed and continue to be presented by radios in countries like Chad, Somalia, Nigeria, and elsewhere in Africa. In this program, listeners enjoy two things: Tayyib, simple interpretation of the Quran verses, often using the Sudanese vernacular, and the solemn recitation of the verses by the late Sheikh Siddiq Ahmed Hamdoun. So the audience in our coming episode, in our second encounter with him, we will meet him to experience his journey with exegesis of the Holy Quran in radio of Durman. As has been told, it has taken 35 years, and we go with him in the journey with the late Quranic reciter Sheikh Siddiq Ahmed Hamdoun. Professor Abdallah Atyyib was a scholar of rare distinction in Arabic literature. In 2000, he was awarded the King Faisal Literature Prize for his المرشد إلى فهم أشعار العرب. And after a life filled with great achievements and contributions, Professor Abdallah Atyyib has passed away on June 19, 2003. After suffering a stroke that had left him unable to move since the year 2000.
اللهم صل وسلم على حبيب الله بغير الذي من نوره النور ضاويا. اللهم صل وسلم على حبيب الله. تممنا مديح الهاشمي بطيبة كما أننا فيها بدأنا بهيبة. مددت به ليلا كمقدار لحظة وجمعي له قد كان سبع سويعة. فصدق به.
Then the audience, I would like to point out to the sources that I depended on presenting the biography of Professor Abdallah Atyyib. The first source is الجزيرة.net موسوعة السودان. البروفيسور عالم اللغة عبدالله الطيب ثالث سوداني يحصل على الدكتوراه. Another source that I depend on also is Professor Abdallah Atyyib, an article that had been published in Times newspaper July 1st of July 2003, entitled Professor Abdallah Atyyib, writer and scholar whose vast guide to Arabic poetry related its tradition to those of the West. Another source, Professor Abdallah Atyyib, King Faisal Prize in Arabic Language and Literature 2000 laureate. And finally, the source that also I have depend on introducing the biography of Professor Abdallah Atyyib is Sudan Now magazines. That is the issue of 12th of July 2020, entitled Professor Abdallah Atyyib Remembered 17 Years On.